And welcome to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers. We're here every week meeting interesting people and dealing with topical issues. And we've got a guy I've been wanting to have on the show for quite a while.
Well, indeed. Senator Randy Brogdon is going to be on. And he is a unique individual in the sense that as a leader in the state legislature and in the community generally up in the Tulsa area, he seems to be on the cutting edge of a lot of new things that are happening, things that could bring about a lot of change in Oklahoma. And he's got a very positive attitude about a lot of these rule changes and law changes, and I think our viewers will really enjoy hearing from him.
And we will do so. Senator Brogdon today on The Verdict. We'll be right back.
In driving rain, blistering heat, and bitter cold, 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, Chesapeake drills non-stop for natural gas on American soil. Chesapeake drills more new gas wells than anyone else, and from those wells collects the most drilling information and acquires more 3D seismic images, leveraging every efficiency to improve the odds of finding more natural gas every day with every well we drill. The better job we do of discovering bigger reserves of clean-burning American natural gas, the greater the prosperity of our nearby communities, our state, and our nation. And as long as there are more gas reserves to be found here in the U.S., we will never rest. Chesapeake. Natural gas wins the day.
Wilsey, Meyer, Eatman, Tate. We're accountants. We do taxes, business valuations, estate planning, and consulting. And we're right here in Oklahoma, working with the owners of small and medium-sized businesses. Steve Wilsey and Stuart Meyer have the resources and the experience. Wilsey, Meyer, Eatman, Tate in Oklahoma City and Tulsa.
Welcome back to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers, and Kent's going to introduce today's guest.
Today, we're really pleased to have on for the first time somebody we've wanted on for a long time, Senator Randy Brogdon, for a state senator from District 34, the Tulsa-Owasso area. He was born in Ardmore, raised in Tulsa, now lives in Owasso with his wife and family. He was elected to the state senate in 2002. He's the author, among other things, of the 10th Amendment resolution that we're going to talk to him a little bit about today, along with tort reform and a lot of other things that are going on out at the Capitol. And he's the first senator in 20 years to receive a 100% mark on Conservative Vote Index. It measures the conservativeness of the votes of the members of the legislature, and the first senator in 20 years to receive a 100% mark in this last session. And thank you for coming down from Tulsa to be with us.
I appreciate the invitation to be with you, and Mayor, pleasure to be with you as well.
Great. Hey, give us an update on the what's going on at the state capitol in relation to tort reform for 2009.
There are several pieces of legislation that are still moving through the process, and House Bill 1603 is the comprehensive tort bill that I think probably will be the final vehicle. In that bill, it's going to be similar to what we've seen in the past. It'll have joint and several liability, which is a big problem in the state of Oklahoma. You know, we're talking about, I know that you're an attorney, but there's actually talk about putting caps on attorneys' fees. I don't know where that's going to wind up. Venue shopping is a problem, so I think that's going to be addressed. and even the overall lawsuit reform when it comes to the class action. I think that will be a part of that bill as well. So the comprehensive bill obviously starts out with a lot of different aspects, and how it winds up on the governor's desk is still up for grabs.
We have seen this evolve, though, through Governor Henry's administration. And what's your view on, there's a lot of noise and a lot of talk, and we hear the governor say things, and we hear the legislative branch say things, and there seems to have been some progress for those who would like tort reform. Where are we now, and where do you think we're headed here in the final years of the Henry administration?
Well, Governor Henry has told us ever since 2004 that he wants what he described as Texas-style tort reform. We have put that on his desk at 2 different times, but there are some things that he does not like about the bill, and it's the caps. Number one, on attorney's fees, and also, I believe, on the caps on pain and suffering. He has a difference of opinion on that as well. But there are things that the Governor Henry has, I think, made clear over the years that he can support. I believe he's fine with joint and several. I think he's fine with venue shopping and with class action reform. One of the biggest problems that we have in the class action reform, I believe, something that would actually fix the problem, would be to have an opt-in rather than an opt-out, and that would, I think, have a drastic effect on maybe attorneys that would normally take something that may have take a case that has 100,000 people that have automatically been a part of that class action lawsuit. It'd make a difference if there was only a half a dozen or so that were actually harmed by that class action. So, coming from a business background, I am not an attorney, but I do know some of the things that have been a negative effect on my business. I know that they must have the same negative effects on small businesses around the state. So, I think we're going to pass a comprehensive lawsuit bill again this year, and hopefully it will be one that the governor will sign, because he has given overtures over the last several years that he does want to sign a comprehensive tort reform bill.
On the one hand, it seems as though there's a pretty strong sentiment for capping attorney's fees. There's a pretty strong sentiment for perhaps capping pain and suffering, or non-economic damages,
Right.
However you refer to it. But there's also a strong sentiment to make sure that we don't do something that closes off access to the courts to the citizens. They have reasonable access to the courts, even though we may wind it down a little bit in other areas. Does your bill address that?
Well, certainly,
Or does the House bill, excuse
Well,
me?
yeah, it is a House bill, House Bill 1603 again.
Right.
And I've not seen the final product yet. Obviously, It's just now coming over. We are this week taking the House bills into our committee work. So I would suspect that is in there, and I believe that probably will be a huge part of the discussion. There is overwhelming polling data where the citizens around the state do support those caps. So I think it's probably going to be part of the discussion. Who knows at this point if it's going to be a final part of the bill.
We had Senator Coffey on several weeks ago, and he suggested that at least it was a possibility. He didn't want to foreclose any legislative efforts with the governor's approval, but there was a possibility it might be a movement to circulate or to have a House Joint Senate resolution to put it on the ballot
Right.
for the people to vote on. Do you hear anything about that?
Well, I've heard that is a real possibility this year, because, again, the polling has shown us that the people do want the caps, and that may be a standalone item of an initiative petition. So that I think that is a real possibility this year. But the economic, we don't want to put caps on that. I don't think we've ever suggested that, and I don't think the governor is for that either. So I don't believe that's going to be part of it.
One thing I wish you'd tell our viewers about, since this is your first visit, and I didn't really say much about it in your introduction, I probably should have. You're a small businessman.
Yes.
You've had your small business in operation for 20 some odd years, I think.
Over 30 years.
Over 30 years. Tell us a little bit about what your experiences have been in Oklahoma as a small business person.
Well, I've got a great Oklahoma success story. I loaned my dad $500 and my 1963 Chevrolet when I was a senior in high school, so my dad could start our air conditioning company, and that's the way we got started. For the next 17 years after that, Dad and I served together as partners in a very thriving business, and we built that from zero to just a tremendous company. We've hired scores of people throughout the years, you know, and I tell you, I have paid those high workman's comp bills throughout those years. Luckily, I've never been sued in my business or personally otherwise, so I've not personally experienced a tort problem in my company, but I do recognize that we have a huge problem in our workman's comp system, and so I don't even think we're addressing that this year. There may be a bill coming from the House. I don't think we passed one off the Senate. But my business background has been very solid. It has provided me a lot of my background for how I make decisions in the state legislature, and I'm extremely excited to have had this opportunity over the years to operate my own company right here in the state of Oklahoma.
Are we headed toward a vote of the people?
On the tort, I think, again, that's going to be a real possibility. If we can get a comprehensive tort bill on the governor's desk and the governor signs it, there would not be a reason for that. If we can't, I believe there probably will be a very distinct possibility, if not a probability, that there would be something on the ballot next year.
And you say next year, you're talking about 2010?
2010, yes.
In the November ballot?
I would imagine that's when it would be.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I presume if it was favorably received by the voters, it would become effective immediately
Yes,
thereafter.
and of course, if it goes to a vote of the people, that is a constitutional amendment. So hopefully we can take care of it in the state legislature.
Are there examples of other states that have gone this route to get tort reform passed?
You know, I don't know if any other states have actually had a tort bill passed by the people. Not all states even have the opportunity to petition their government through the initiative process. We have that available to us in Oklahoma, and it's been used quite a few times throughout the years when the state legislature fails to do the job that the people around the state are asking for. So that's a possibility.
I'm going to jump in and get us to a break. We're visiting with State Senator Randy Brogdon. We'll have more on the verdict right after this.
To be Chickasaw, you have strength, you have faith, and your family comes first.
I was diagnosed with FSGS, which is a progressive kidney disease that leads to kidney failure.
I believe that being Chickasaw makes me strong. It made me a strong mother for Melissa.
She told me that day, don't worry, I'll be there for you. I've got 2 kidneys, you can have 1.
They took me in first, and we just hugged each other, and I said, Melissa, it's almost time, it's gonna be all right.
My mom has given me life twice, and how do you ever thank someone for giving you a second chance? Through those challenging times, my family and I knew that we were going to get through it, that we are a Chickasaw family, and that whatever obstacle may arise, together we will conquer it.
Home values are down in some states, but not in Oklahoma. Oklahoma's home values have increased 4.2% during the past 12 months. Unlike some states where home values have decreased as much as 20%. Good thing you're in Oklahoma. There may be real estate problems in some states, but there has never been a better time than now to buy or sell a home in Oklahoma. One of the most affordable states in the country, Oklahomans are buying and selling homes every day, and an Oklahoma Realtor can show you how. Good thing you're in Oklahoma.
Okiwani is an Indian name for a place where children play. When we obtained the camp, we found a lot of oil debris left in the woods. We saw a commercial about how the oil and natural gas industry cleans up old oil well sites. We called the OERB, and they agreed to remove tons of concrete and steel. It didn't cost us a thing. Thousands of children have left their footprints on this land. Thanks to the oil and gas industry, they will for a long time to come.
Welcome back to The Verdict. We're visiting with State Senator Randy Brogdon. We want to move in this segment to the area of initiative petition. And we're not talking in this case about any particular idea for an initiative petition, but just in general, the process and whether or not Oklahoma's laws can be improved.
Right. Well, Oklahoma is a very populous state. Our Constitution proves that. We, the people, have had the opportunity throughout the years to petition our government. And when the state legislature refuses to listen, the people have an opportunity to put forth any initiative on the ballot and let the people vote on that. When that transpires, that becomes part of our Constitution. And so that has been done many, many times throughout the years. But our initiative process drastically hinders the people from getting anything on the ballot. And let me give you an example. We have to collect 15% of the last election in signatures. So a couple of years ago, I was involved in a petition process where we had to go and collect 330,000 signatures. We only had 90 days to do that. It is very difficult, as you can imagine, to collect that amount of signatures to get something on the ballot. So I have a bill this year, SJR 13. It will be a constitutional change that will tie all of the petition signatures to the governor's race. Currently, one year they're tied to the governor's race, the next year they're tied to the presidential race. So you could have, I mean, it is a very unfair and unbalanced system that we have today.
Because voter turnout is increased for a presidential election.
Yes, usually it's twice. Yeah,
Twice, okay.
Yeah. So this would be a great reform, and we're also trying to lengthen the amount of time that we have to get those signatures. That will cut out a lot of the questions of, is somebody a qualified voter? You know, should they be signing the petition? Give us an opportunity to actually have time to collect those signatures. And we want a fair and open process. And so our reform this year addresses those issues.
I've heard it said in that regard that because of Oklahoma's high signature requirement and short time to gather those signatures, that really only the rich can afford to get something on the ballot in Oklahoma, because you've got to pay a lot of money to get the signatures in a 90-day period, right, whereas most states have a much longer period of time. Would your measure remedy that?
Yes, it would greatly help it. And this is a twofold process. We do have a constitutional aspect of the bill, but we also have some statutes that we have to deal with as well. So certainly we want to make it easy, we want to make it convenient, and we want to make it fair for the people to have the opportunity to put something on the ballot to be voted on. The people still finally have the final say no matter what goes on the ballot.
Oklahoma, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, it seems like we've had a recent history. We have one initiative petition every few years. I can think in my mind of 2 or 3 in the last 10 years. Is that pretty standard pace?
Yeah, and you know, and we're not wanting to make it to where everything that we do is on the ballot. I believe as an elected official, my constituents voted on me, and they trust me to make intelligent decisions here in the state legislature. I, for one, am not a fan of, quote, direct democracy. I believe in the legislative process and deliberating and debating on the issues. But when the state legislature refuses to listen to the people, then thank goodness here in the state of Oklahoma, we have an avenue to petition our government and to make changes without the politicians.
But wouldn't you agree, for it to work well, it needs to be an issue that where there is so much information that voters have, right, that they can make a decision. Sometimes elected leaders just have access to more information and are in a better position to be able to make a decision than your average citizen would. But in an initiative petition type, if you can do it sparingly, but strategically, and do it on issues that are of vast importance, and there's a lot of information that people have a full understanding of it, then the system can work well, and direct democracy is a positive thing.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that makes the initiative process so expensive. There's only one way to get your message out to the people, and that's through TV, radio, media, and that's expensive. It's a lot less expensive to have open debates in the state legislature than it is to mount an advertising campaign to get your message out. And that's what has to transpire with the initiative process. But we need to keep it intact, we need to improve it, reform it, and make it accessible so the people have the opportunity to petition the government if they so choose.
But one point, government cannot back a campaign one way or the other.
That is correct.
So the state could not, or the city of Oklahoma City could not. So it almost has to be private sector or charitable type giving that people really believe in a concept to be able to weigh the options and to get those messages out.
That's right, and that's costly. It costs a lot of money to do that.
Yeah, these changes are not going to make the initiative petition process inexpensive, but less expensive.
Yeah, and less cumbersome.
And less cumbersome.
Right.
And more likely to be successful. I saw some stats the other day that Oklahoma, while deep in its populous roots, has fewer matters actually making the ballot than most other states that have the same kind of process because of the short period of time and the high number of signatures.
Yeah.
Well, it's a little bit off subject, but I always read and hear about California and how they have this extraordinarily large number of propositions, and they have extraordinary resources and repercussions to the way that life is. And it seems like that system is perhaps a little too open, and to the extent that it's broken. And you could look at their budget right now and see that California is not doing well as a state government entity trying to do on the daily business of the state.
And I'm certainly not trying to go there. I'm trying to strike a balance. California has a whole lot of problems that they need to deal with. That's just one
not
of
a
them.
role model in this sense.
No, not at all.
No, I compared Senator Brogdon's bill with California, and it's much more rational and an appropriate approach than California, just wide open. Anything you want. Two people get together and want it on the ballot, it goes on the ballot.
Yeah, that's
and you have about a 15-page ballot. But we do, however, probably need more than one every 2 or 3 years on the ballot.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about your future. Your name's been mentioned as a possible gubernatorial candidate. Your interest.
Well, just last week we filed an exploratory committee, and this is something I've actually been thinking about for well over a year. I've been preparing my path over the last year and trying to implement put some processes in place that would allow me to make that decision. We did file an exploratory committee, and probably in the next few weeks we'll be making an announcement about my political future. So.
And does that allow you to start raising money? Is that what an exploratory committee does?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess what would you tell the people in the little time we have remaining about why it is they ought to seriously consider Randy Brogdon?
Well, and that's a great question, Kent. Thanks for asking it, by the way. I am so concerned about the future, not just of the state of Oklahoma, but of our nation. And I believe Washington-style politics does not play well in the state of Oklahoma anymore. It's Congress that's causing the problem. Washington, D.C. is breaking the financial back of the state of Oklahoma and every family that lives here. So I want to bring the Oklahoma values back to the forefront. Gone are the days to where Oklahomans appreciate this Washington overbearing and overreaching, stepping outside of the bounds of their constitutional authority. And I think it's going to take bold, courageous leadership to stand up from the D.C. politicians. If my head is in the ring, I assure you I will be the man, a leader that you can trust, someone, my yays are yay and my nays are nay. And politics as usual has got to stop. This partisan bickering has got to stop. I'm no longer concerned about whether it's Republican and Democrat, whether it's left and right. I'm concerned about what's right and wrong, and I will lead that way.
State Senator Randy Brogdon. Kent and I'll have a final word after this.
Thanks.
It's time to meet the new people in power.
The people responsible for our energy future.
It's you.
It's me. All of us together.
From now on, we're the people in power.
OG&E will supply the power.
It's how we apply the power that counts.
We've got to use electricity smarter,
wiser,
cleaner,
better.
So we've got to be informed,
equipped,
prepared,
committed.
From now on.
Look, nobody wants to waste energy. Nobody wants to build new power plants.
Nobody wants to pay more for electricity.
But nobody wants to give up their way of life.
We don't have to.
If we just use positive energy together.
I'll take advantage of off-peak hours.
That means cutting energy use from 1 to 7 every day.
Every day.
I'm going to sign up for more and more wind power.
We'll take advantage of the high-tech tools coming soon from OG&E.
OG&E can't do it alone.
It's you and OG&E working together.
Find dozens of ways you can help at OGE.com.
A positive energy future is in our power. Together.
Blankenship has stopped at the line of scrimmage. No gain on the play. Leaving it 4th and 7 on the Tiger 46-yard line. 38 seconds on the clock. The Tigers have no choice but to go for it. Wiggins in to do the kicking. Here's the snap. And the kick is away.
The good life comes naturally to Tulsa, where nature's beauty is matched with an eye for aesthetics. A legacy of neighborhoods graced with lawns and landscaping and handsome homes. A place that seems to have patented an ideal lifestyle. Bank First is loyal to the quality of life Tulsa assures its citizens, to the priority placed on education, culture, and growth. Loyal to builders who transform raw land into residential charm. Developers who see opportunity and add vitality to Tulsa's economy. Bank First serves both enterprise and private lives that need a loyal partner. It's how we help nurture this city's very good life. Bank First. Loyal to Oklahoma. Loyal to you.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information.
Welcome back to The Verdict. Randy Brogdon has supporters and detractors, but he's a guy that rolls up his sleeves and get after it and is very active in state politics.
Yes, and he doesn't pull punches. You'll always know where he stands, and he won't just flip-flop on you. Once he takes a position that is one that he is committed to, he'll stay with it and tell you why. Mm-hmm. And that's a refreshing quality in some circles.
Absolutely. He has a website for more information, randybrogdon.com. randybrogdon.com. And of course, go to our website and tell us about a show that you'd like to see right here on The Verdict. Our website is theverdict.tv. For Kent Myers, I'm Mick Cornett. We will see you next week right here on The Verdict.
The preceding program was produced exclusively for the Cox Channel.